Start the discussion here. Okay. So, mock test 12, rebels under Raj, economic history personal. So this is considered to be the most hardest among all sections. So far, what we have so far with regards to our tests, you may have felt that most of it was tougher than usual. That is because we had framed the questions in such a way. It was done in purpose. Now, since you got a lot of time to study, please to go through these questions too. This will give you a lot of actual information. Okay, so areas that I haven't actually gone or I haven't explored much in my session have been covered in the questions. Okay, so got additional information too. So let's start the discussion with reference to Anglo-Mysore rivalry. Sorry, that consider the following statements. Anglo-Mysore rivalry. I hope you got that. Okay. Tipu was influenced by the ideals of the French Revolution. Was he? Yes, of course he was. He planted the tree of liberty, if you know, inspired from the French Revolution. He even planted the tree of liberty at Mysore. Okay, tree of liberty. He was also the member of the Mysore Jacobin Club, but didn't imbibe the liberal spirit that was there with regards to the French Revolution. It was just that he planted the tree of liberty, but didn't care to imbibe the revolutionary spirit, the liberal spirit of the French Revolution. He was, of course, an authoritarian and a despot. Okay. British deployed advanced rocketry in large scale during Anglo-Mysore. This option resembles another option that was framed by the UPSC in the 2017 exam with regards to Babur and the First Battle of Panipat. Okay, the British deployed advanced rocketry in large scale. Is that right? Large scale? No, it isn't. You could say, on the other hand, Tipu Sultan deployed advanced rocketry against the British during the Anglo-Mysore War. If you know about it, Tipu and his army, or Tipu and his French engineers were the first ones to actually deploy ironclad rockets in battlefields in large scale. Okay, so Tipu did deploy rockets in large scale, which surprised a lot of people. Okay, Hector Munro, considered to be the hero of the Battle of Buxar, actually was surprised and had to give up. Okay, General Baird, David Baird, who finally managed to defeat Tipu. He was a general who defeated Tipu, who stood over his dead body. You don't need to know all these names, I'm just mentioning. Okay, so they were all surprised by the kind of potency that particular weapon had. Okay, so rocketry, yes, but it was not the British, but rather Tipu. So this option is wrong. Mysore was completely an action of British Empire. Is that right? No, it isn't. Mysore came under the Treaty of Subsidiary of Alliance. It was restored back. A diminished Mysore was restored back to the Wadayars. I hope you have understood the question. Okay, a diminished Mysore was restored back to the Wadayars and brought under subsidiary alliance. So it was restored back to the Wadayar dynasty. Okay, restored to the diminished Mysore, restored to the Wadayar dynasty, came under the subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance did not mean the complete annexation of the native state, but that the native state had to cede their sovereignty, maintain a standard set of company regiments within the headquarters, so on and so forth. I hope you have understood that part. Okay, so the answer there is one only, A. I'll take your doubts after the question session is over. Don't worry, we'll have a doubt clearing session just like the last time. Okay, with reference to the Mahalwari system, which of the following statements are correct? The Mahal or the village committee was granted ownership of a revenue estate. Is that right? No, it isn't. See, the Mahal was responsible in collecting the taxes. If you remember, collecting the taxes. So it was from the Mahal where the British actually collected their taxes. Thus the name Mahalwari system. Rayatwari, it was from the Rayat that the British collected their taxes. Zamindari, it was from the Zamindar that the British collected their taxes. So thus the name. Am I clear there? Okay. But they never had complete ownership. This statement is related to the Zamindari permanent settlement system and the Rayatwari system. Okay. Both in the Rayatwari as well as the permanent settlement system, the people who actually gave the taxes had ownership. Okay, Rayatwari and permanent settlement. But in the Mahalwari system, the Mahal never had ownership over the land. It was just that the Mahal settled. See, ultimately, the taxes were assessment level, or assessment of the taxes were done at the level of the cultivators. So people come to the home of the cultivators, assess their taxes, and on the whole, fix a particular revenue from that village, which they would collect from the Mahals. Am I clear there? Village committees. Do we get my point? Okay. So this is one important thing. Okay. This is something that will look confusing to you guys. You have to have the your concept needs to be well entrenched to answer such questions. Okay, it's a very simple question, but your concept needs to be, you need to be sure about what you are talking about here. It was developed by Hall Mackenzie, yes, which is right. So this is wrong. Never granted ownership. So the answer there is 2 only. Let's move on. Don't worry, you'll have your, I know you'll have your secure doubts. We will clear that later on. Sunset laws. What is this all about? This is there in your NCERT. Okay. All of this is there in your NCERT actually. Okay. Now, sunset laws. Sunset laws, what was it actually? Sunset laws, revenue collection law, which was enacted in areas coming under the Zamindari system. The Zamindari system was also known as the permanent settlement system. Okay. You have to be privy about such information. Okay. So I hope that has been understood. Let's move on. The sunset law, B. With reference to the drain of wealth during colonial rule in India, which of the following? See, all this information will be there in the handout that will be giving you through the land revenue systems. We'll post that particular handouts as well as my PDFs, that the frameworks and all that in your group. Don't worry about it. We are just we just evolved. We are just evolving it now. We're just quite busy in the last 2 days. We'll be posting it maximum by tops Monday. Don't worry about it. Okay. So, with reference to drain of wealth during colonial rule in India, which of the following constituted home charges? What is home charges? Home charges, it is the expense that the Indian government had to put, which actually took place abroad. Okay, it was the expense that the Indian government had to put, even though the actual incidence of it took place abroad. Okay, am I clear there? അപ്പോൾ പുറത്ത് നടന്ന ഒരു കാര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ നിന്നും പൈസ ചെലുത്തുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പൈസ ചുമത്തുന്ന ഒരു രീതിയാണ് ഹോം ചാർജ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ. പേര് കേട്ട് തെറ്റിദ്ധരിക്കരുത്. Okay, so I hope you have understood what home charge is. Okay, now let's look at what home charges are. Expense on India office. Of course, this office is related to India, but where is this office situated in? It's located out of London. It is the office of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State works for the Indian government, but is actually not present here. Okay, he is a member of the parliament whose entire expense has to be put from the Indian fiscal. It is very unfair. Okay, that is why we call it home charges. Interest in public debt raised from abroad for construction of railways. See, large number of British investors invested in the railways in order to attain exorbitant profits in return in the form of interest payments. They were offered guaranteed interest payments. Okay, these investors, British investors, were offered guaranteed interest payments. See, the British did not even provide an avenue for Indian investors here. Guaranteed interest payments. So please remember that. Okay, so interest on public debt raised upon, of course. See, we had to, for an activity that took place here, see, what happened was we had to take investments from the British, but in turn we had to guarantee them interest rates. Okay, which is very unfair. The government shouldn't have actually extended for a loan from such people. The government should have extended the construction of railways via their own fiscal mechanism, instead of which they allowed private investors, that too from abroad, to invest there, who were then assured guaranteed interest payments, which is very unfair for large exorbitant sums. Okay, this too can be considered home charges, because the actual expenditure is with regards to paying back the British investors their interest payments. Okay, dividend to the shareholders of the East India Company, yes, of course. The East India Company earned its profits from the country, but nonetheless, all the shareholders were British, and thus the profits were transferred to England, which is very unfair. It's like transfer pricing or round tripping. Okay, what happens was that the entire profit was transfer priced to England very unfairly. Okay, I hope you understood that concept. So this is with regards to home charges. Okay, now what are the other things that may come? Inventory maintained by British offices related to India in England. See, inventory or store purchases, whatever. Inventory, store purchases. See, expenses put by the Indian government during a war that took place abroad. Okay, expenses put up by the Indian government during a war. Am I audible to you guys? Am I audible? Yes. Okay. This is okay. Thank you. Let's move on. There are certain candidates. Okay. Now, so please remember that. So for the non-Malayali, said don't worry. I will always be covering the most important facts in English. It's just that some concepts, when spoken in the native tongue, will be clear to students that are based out of it. That is it. Okay, don't worry. You will not be missing anything out of this. Okay. So now, so I hope the answer is clear there. So 1, 2, and 3, all 3 are home charges. Okay. So this is a very important question. A part of drain of health, an aspect of drain of health that we hadn't covered in our Zoom in our session. Okay, which we'll be doing, which has been covered by this question frame. Okay, so please remember that. Now let's move on. So 1, 2, and 3 is the answer. Which among the following were the primary agenda of United Patriotic Association? This association was established by none other than Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Okay, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the great Muslim social reformer. Okay, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and a Raja, a king who happened to have my name, who happened to share my name, surname, Raja Shivaprasad. Okay, so I had a certain amount of vested interest when I tried framing this question. Okay, so anyways, United Patriotic Association, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and Raja Shivaprasad. Now, what is its peculiarity? So it was an organization that was meant to promote secularism. So it did try promote Hindu-Muslim unity. Okay. On the other hand, it was loyal to the British. It was an organization that was propped up with the help of the British by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan in order to counter the Indian National Congress, counter the propaganda of the Indian National Congress. Okay. So to unite Hindus and Muslims on common political questions against the British is wrong. To unite Hindus and Muslims would have been would have been accurate, but it was not against the British, but rather it was something that was established by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan with the help of the British in order to counter the Indian National Congress. That is why it was founded 2 years later. 1887 was when this organization was actually founded. Okay, so I hope you have understood. So I have given you the character of that organization. Now, if you had known that United Patriotic Association was founded by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, you would have known that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was always considered to be a loyalist of the British. You must always remember that. Most reformers are. If you ask me, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was always a loyalist of the British. Keshav Chandra Sen, a diehard loyalist of the British. Okay, so they did not try airing nationalistic aspirations. This is the same agenda that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had. He wanted to uplift the Muslim community, but not to oppose the British. So, to create a strong public opinion in England against British rule in India. Is that right? Not so. The same thing. It is a loyalist organization. Please remember that. Okay. So, I hope the answer there is clear. Neither 1 nor 2. Okay. Now let's move on. Which of the organizations are associated with? Organizations are associated with Subhash Chandra Bose. Free India Legion, of course. Something established by Subhash Chandra Bose when he was in Germany. How did he establish Free India Legion? He tried recruiting the Indian expatriates who had been rounded up as hostages in Africa. Okay, when the German offensive managed to break, when the German offensive actually defeated the British army out there, what happened was that most of North Africa was under the domination of the British Empire. Okay, the Germans decided to unleash an offensive under Erwin Rommel. You don't need to know the name of the general. Under Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, they decided to unleash an offensive there. So the British tried securing that area by deploying Indian soldiers. Okay, so we had to tide over the harsh summers out there and the heat of the desert. And we, at the heat of the desert, we fought a war against the Germans, and we were totally and literally routed. Okay, most of our soldiers were captured as hostages, prisoners of war. Now, when Subhash Chandra Bose opposed Germany for assistance with regards to starting a parallel army, the Germans decided to Germans decided to give him the access to such POWs, but they were too demoralized to join it. So this initiative was ultimately a failure. Okay. Now, what became a success? The Indian National Army, for which he had to go to Japan to accept its leadership. Okay. So that was established in Japan. That was more successful than the Free India Legion, which was an initiative that Subhash Chandra Bose had started in World War Germany. Okay. Indian Independence Committee. Now, what is this related to? This is related to the First World War. This was also known as the Berlin Committee. Please remember that. Okay. Berlin Committee, very important. Okay. Berlin Committee was an initiative that was established in the First World War. Revolutionary movements abroad. Okay. Started by Chambaka Raman Pillai, who incidentally happens to be a Tamilian. Chambaka Raman Pillai. Okay. And brother of Sarojini Naidu, Virendranath Chattopadhyay. Virendranath Chattopadhyay. Am I audible to all? Virendranath Chattopadhyay. Okay. So now in Indian Independence Committee, First World War. So this is wrong. There are high chances that a candidate would have overlooked it. So in your moment of joy, okay. And somebody had a question. What happened? Okay, we'll continue. So in your moment of joy, you would have overlooked that the Indian Independence Committee has nothing to do with Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay, you may have been overly confident about this particular question and would have probably made that option wrong. That is why this question has been set. Okay, that is a difference. Subhash Chandra Bose started the provincial government of Free India in Singapore. Please remember that. Subhash Chandra Bose actually started the provincial government of Free India. So this is how a candidate can be deceived into going for the or opting for the wrong answer. Okay. So Azad Infos, of course, I don't have to elaborate on that. Yes, associated with Subhash. The question is associated. It was never founded by Subhash Chandra Bose, but associated, yes. There's a difference between foundation and association. Foundation is he was one of the founders of the organization, which he was not. It was Mohan Singh, Captain Mohan Singh, who actually established the INA. We had covered that aspect last time, Bidadari resolution. Okay, and along with Raj Bihari Bose. Now, Subhash Chandra Bose later on took over its command. Okay, so remember that. So, but it is questions about associated. Okay, most UPSC questions will be in the same pattern. Associated, related to, it will be the same pattern. They'll never try committing into the question by putting in founder. Okay. Most part they will. Founder organization type is our type, but it also means founder associated organization type. Okay, so the answer there is 1 and 3. C. Which among the following pairs are correctly matched? National Indian Association, Dadabhai Naoroji. No. See, why this organization has come about? One thing, these are all pre-Congress organizations, which is something that I had pointed out in our discourse. Remember, personality organization, pre-Congress organizations are very important. The other thing is, this is one of the few pre-Congress organizations or actually only pre-Congress organization to have been founded by a woman, Mary Carpenter. Okay, Mary Carpenter was an Indian. She was somebody who sympathized with the Indians, very close with Brahmo social reformers. She was also somebody who wanted to undertake women upliftment. She established the National Indian Association in England actually to help out Indian diaspora who were there. Dadabhai Naoroji had sought out her help for establishing which happens to be the next East India Association, Dadabhai Naoroji. Okay, East India Association, of course, established by none other than Dadabhai Naoroji. So remember Mary Carpenter. Okay, these are the things that a candidate must be privy about. This is the only organization which is actually founded by a female. Pre-Congress organization. Sorry, the pre-Congress organization to be have been actually founded by a female. Pre-Congress political organization. Okay, am I clear there? Social reform organization. Yes, you would have other options too. Mahila Arya Samaj and all that were there. But this is the only pre-Congress political organization to have been founded by a female. East India, that's how we had divided that section, if you remember. Pre-Congress political, post, then non-Congress organizations, we went to pre-Congress political organizations, and those organizations, political organizations existed parallelly along with the Congress. Now, East India Association, Dadabhai Naoroji, established in London. Bombay Presidency Association, of course, Firoz Shah Mehta. Okay, the Bombay Triumvirate, Firoz Shah Mehta, K.T. Talan. Okay, they were the founders of the organization, and Badruddin Tyabji, the Bombay Triumvirate, as you would know them. Remember that. K.T. Talan, Firoz Shah Mehta, and Badruddin Tyabji. Okay, they were also known as the Bombay Triumvirate. Okay. The noted absentee here is Dadabhai Naoroji. So there could be a possible question: who among the following was part described to be the Bombay Triumvirate, where Dadabhai Naoroji would not be there, because almost all organizations during this time, some way or the other, has the participation of Dadabhai Naoroji. So I hope you have understood the answer there. The answer there is 3 only. B. Let's move on. In the context of penetration, blue water policy is something there in your old NCERT or modern India by Bipin Chandra. Answer: D. Almeida, Francisco D. Almeida. Okay, so the answer is pretty simple. Portuguese, the first Portuguese viceroy to be precise, Francisco D. Almeida. In modern Indian history, the term Jotedar related to the permanent settlement system. The Jotedars were a class of wealthy peasants. Possible question. This is there in your NCERT, Themes of Indian History, class 12, theme 10. Okay, so wealthy peasant, class in Bengal. You may have felt some of these questions are as daunting and tough, but I can assure you most of them can be traced to the NCERTs. Okay, but as I've already mentioned, don't worry about land revenue systems. We will provide you a comprehensive material which will have all this. You don't have to refer to any other material. Okay, with regards to all that. Now, let's continue. 9D, the answer is 9D. Wealthy peasant class. See, this is a very strange term. Wealthy peasant class. They were not actually landholding zamindars, but rather a new elite that rose later on, after the decline of the zamindari class. Okay, so wealthy peasant class in Bengal. Which of the following is our revolts that occurred before the revolt of 1857? Possible UPSC type question. Okay, what is the answer there? Polygar revolt, of course, in the early 1800s, 1800 to 1803, Polygar revolts. 5, okay, which took place in Tamil Nadu. Remember, Tamil Nadu and parts of Kerala. The Polygar revolts. Tamil Nadu, parts of Kerala, Andhra also. Andhra Pradesh too. Parts of Andhra Pradesh and Kerala. Do you know who polygars are? Polygars were feudal intermediaries, feudal landed intermediaries who controlled most revenue possessions in South India. Okay, polygars, feudal landed intermediaries. Okay, who controlled most landed possessions in South India, especially Tamil Nadu. Okay, so that is confirmed. Deccan Riots, not so. Deccan Riots, 1875 to 79. Okay, so not so. Indigo Revolt, not so. Indigo Revolt is started from 1859 to 62. So, see, now you may inquire how to study these dates. Learn the dates of the Governor Generals. That is the only way you can cover these aspects. If this took place during the time between 1875 to 79, part of it took place during the time period of Lord Lytton. Very famous viceroy, 1815 to 62, Lord Canning. Okay, so had you identified and mapped this event to the viceroy, you could have easily cracked the question. Okay, that's how you do it. Polygar revolts. Who was the famous viceroy during this time? Lord Wellesley. See, most important events happened during the time of important viceroys. Lord Wellesley, Richard Wellesley. So remember that too. So I hope you understood the answer. The answer there is A, one only. Okay, both Deccan rights as well as Indigo rights are wrong. Okay, which of the following is correct about tribal revolts that occurred in the 19th century? The Soods and Dikkus were heroic tribal warriors who fought against the British forces. Is that right? Not so. Soods and Dikkus were considered to be outsiders against whom the tribals often channelized their anger. If you remember, the tribals often tried driving away money lenders, helpers of zamindars themselves, who are all considered to be outsiders in their land. Dikkus, the term Dikku is actually Santali, which means outsider. Later on, it was adopted to all around central India to be designated Sarna, to be designated as outsiders. Okay, now, so this is wrong. The protest was directed against both the British and local zamindars. This is of course right. Okay, both the British and local zamindars tried suppressing the tribal community, destroying their land ownership system. That is, they had a collective ownership system, communitarian system, whereas the zamindar tried imposing his willpower and tried monopolizing land, tried dominating the land possession. Okay, the passage of the forest laws pacified the tribals, contributing to the decline of the. Is that right? No, it led to a reinvigoration of the tribal movement. It led to the what happened was that forest laws denied access to the tribals to forest land. Okay, so it actually denied them their basic existence and subsistence. That is why this is wrong. So tribal anger was also channelized against forest laws. That is why in the civil disobedience movement, one of the most important manifestations was the forest satyagrahas of the central provinces against the Indian Forest Act in 1927. Okay, so remember that Forest Acts always tried discriminating against the tribal community. Okay, so please remember that reducing their access. So the answer is 2 only. That too is a very deceptive question. So please do analyze such questions. With reference to concept rain theory in the Indian freedom struggle, consider the following statements. Nationalists during Gandhi era used rain theory to mobilize masses. Now, Gandhi may not have literally elicited about the drain theory, but the aspects of the drain theory was of course used. See, what is rural region, what is khadi? Why did he emphasize on khadi and charkha? Because the indigenous industries had been destroyed during the British reign, which is part of the drain theory. Okay, so drain theory was always relevant. It was considered to be it was considered to be a landmark in Indian nationalism that gave the future nationalists a plank to mobilize the masses on. Okay, so economic deprivation was a major plan. So Gandhi need not have literally told about drain theory. The aspects that he highlighted with regards to his various movements was of course about drain theory. That is why he decided to boycott foreign cloth, because indigenous cloth industry had been there was a deindustrialization taking place and indigenous industries getting destroyed during this time. Okay, so this is right. The theory helped undermining ideological hegemony of foreign clothes, of course, it did. Construction of railways of the British negates the drain theory propounded by the nationalists. No, not at all. The railways were considered to be an instrument for transferring revenue and profits to the rich British investors. So rich British capitalists who had accumulated a lot of wealth after the first industrial revolution wanted to invest their excessive profits and wealth somewhere so as to have a safe return of investment option, and they found it in the Indian Railways, where they invested a lot and got assured guaranteed interest payments. Okay, so that is something that you must remember. So that was the route for drain of wealth rather. Okay, so I hope that is understood. So the answer there is A, 1 and 2. The Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916 is of significance in the history of freedom movement because Home Rule Leagues to attain self-government was launched in the session. Home Rule Leagues were never officially launched in any Congress session, which is something that Annie Besant is quite upset about. Okay, it was never officially launched in any Congress session, but the Congress never banned its members from participating in its proceedings. It never launched it officially. That is it. Okay. Muslim League and the Congress agreed to present common demands to govern. Yes, that is right. That is where they come together. The Lucknow Pact. We are talking about the Lucknow Pact. In return, the Congress agreed to the proposition of communal electorates. They accepted communal electorates for the Muslim class. Extremists were expelled. No, rather, the extremists were re-admitted back into the fold of the Congress, which is wrong. Okay. So the answer there is B. Okay, let's move on. Consider the following statements. Annexation of Awadh. Now, who was the president of this session? We have already talked about it. M. Veeraraghavan. Sorry. Ambikacharan A.C. Majumdar. A.C. Majumdar was the president of this particular session. Okay, let's move on. Consider the following statements. Annexation of Awadh, passage of the Age of Consent Act, racial discrimination by European office, which was cause of the revolt of 1857. Annexation of Awadh, of course, yes. Doctrine of maladministration applied by the very imperialistic dispensation of Lord Dalhousie. Okay, so maladministration. Awadh was annexed in the guise of maladministration. Very irresponsibly annexed, rather. I would put it in those words. Passage of the Age of Consent Act. Is that right? No. The Age of Consent Act, 1891. Bal Gangadhar Tilak very famously opposed the Age of Consent Act, rejected its proposals. Very unfortunate development. He had its own explanations. Age of Consent Act increased the age of consent or the age of marriage from that of 10 to 12 years actually. Okay. Racial discrimination by the European officers, of course, that was one big reason. Okay. So the answer there is 1 and 3. Let's move on. Which of the following foreigners were appointed as presidents of the Indian National Congress? A.O. Hume never. A.O. was never the president of the Indian National Congress. William Wedderburn, of course, he was one of the. It was in his. Is one of the most important foreign British leaders of the Indian National Congress. Co-founder of the Indian National Congress. Margaret Noble is, of course, not there. Okay. Margaret Noble was a very famous follower of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. So there is no relationship with Margaret Noble and this particular incident. So that is wrong. So the answer there is 2 only. It would have been very simple. See, the only we've already discussed about female presidents. There are actually 2 female presidents who are foreigners. One being Annie Besant, the other being Nellie Sengupta. That would have got you the effects to the answer. The answer there is C. 2 only. Let's move on. Pledge movement, of course, one of the most important campaigns run by the Indian National Social Conference Office. We have already discussed. Do you remember? An organization founded by Bairamji Malabari and Ranade, M.G. Ranade. Okay. So pledge movement. This was a campaign against child marriage. Okay, so let's move on. Which of the following was not a cause of the Deccan Riot? The end of the American Civil War. Was that a cause of the Deccan Riot? Yes, of course it was. What happened? And when the American Civil War ended, the cotton boom that had taken place in India, where what happened there? See, earlier on, erstwhile, it was the American South that supplied most of the raw cotton to the British textile industry. Okay. Now, what happened was that during the American Civil War, these supplies got disrupted, which gave an opportunity for the Indian producers to cater to British industrial demands. Thus, raw cotton bale was exported in large numbers from India to Britain. Okay. So there was a cotton boom. Now, what happened was that after the end of the American Civil War, there was a restarting of the export trade from America to England once again, cotton trade. So now India slowly lost its or Indian cotton slowly lost its demand. Okay, so that is why there is a slump in demand after that. The end of the American Civil War was one of the big reasons that led to the Deccan riots, because in spite of a reduction in demand in profits, the British refused taxation, excess revenue collected under the. So these are basically points that are coherent with each other, cogent with each other. Okay, so they're coherent with each other. Now, growth of money lenders. This, of course, is an effect of the Ryotwari system. You must remember that these areas come under the Rayotwari system. Bombay, Madras, Deccan can be considered as central provinces and Madras or Bombay. Sorry, so these areas come under. So this is an exclusive issue of the Rayotwari system, growth of money. So this is a big problem actually. Okay. Now, excessive introduction of the Nij and Rayati system. This is related to the Indigo riots. This is there in your class 8 NCRT. Okay, there in your spectrum 2 and class 8 NCRT, Indigo riots. And also there in your handouts. That's a different thing. Okay, I've already mentioned that those have sat in my classes. Please to continue with my referring my handouts and the NCRT. Okay. Consider the following statements regarding Arya Samaj. It opposed idolatry in Hinduism. Of course, it did. It was a reformatory school, rather revivalistic but reformatory. Okay. It of course opposed idolatry in Hinduism. It also favored the study of Western. It did. Dayananda Saraswati is somebody who marveled Western knowledge. He felt that Indian spiritualism was much superior to their Western counterparts, whereas Western knowledge was of equal value to the Indians to improve our productivity and capacity. He marveled Western knowledge. So this is also right. 1 and 2. Okay. Identify the correctly matched pairs. This question has been given because we needed a question with regards to women organization. Women and organization. Okay. Bharatstri Mahamandal. Bharatstri Mahamandal. Of course, an organization established by Sarla Devi Chaudhurani. Okay. Sarla Devi Chaudhurani, Bharatstri Mahamandal, one of the first exclusive women-only organizations. Okay. Bharatstri Mahamandal. Women's Indian Association. Who established this? Annie Besant. Annie Besant. Sarojini Naidu. Annie Besant. Sarojini Naidu. And of course, the very famous Margaret Cousins. Annie Besant. Sarojini Naidu and Margaret Cousins. Okay. Okay. Now, Women's Indian Association. Sharda Vidyalaya. Sharda Vidyalaya is very famous. You've heard about it. Sharda Vidyalaya, Sharda Ladies Union. Who founded this? The great Sister Subbalakshmi. Somebody who's mentioned in the NCRT. Sister Subbalakshmi is a name that has been mentioned in your class 8 NCRT. So we've asked a question in detail with regards to Sharda Vidyalaya. Okay. So Sharda Vidyalaya was an initiative. Sharda Ladies Union is the organization that was established by her, which started a number of education institutions known as Sharda Vidyalaya. Sister Subbalakshmi. Okay. So please remember that. That 2 is right. So the answer there is 1 and 3. 2 is wrong. What was the objective of the HSRA for bombing Central Assembly? 1929. To spread the idea of revolution to the masses, to terrorize British and make them leave India, to avenge the attack on Lala Lajpat Rai, to showcase Hinduism. Also, what was the idea? Basically, to spread idea of revolution to the masses. Bhagat Singh wanted the masses to awaken from their slumber. See, if there would have been another option, that is against the public, it was a protest against the Public Safety passage of the Public Safety Act and the Trade Disputes Act. Okay, Trade Disputes Act and the Public Safety Act. So, but here the option is, there are lots of options. You have to pick and choose the most accurate one. One could say that to spread the idea of revolution to the masses. Terrorize the British and make them leave India? No. See, Bhagat Singh was not under the impression that the British would immediately leave because of the brutal attack that was there. The attack was not brutal in the first place. To avenge for attack on law, that is with regards to Lahore conspiracy case. If you remember, Lahore conspiracy case, murder of Saunders. Okay, Lahore conspiracy case, murder of Saunders. It is on the charges of the Lahore conspiracy case that ultimately all three, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev, were hung. Okay, so that is the answer. To showcase Hindu-Muslim unity, not an option at all. Okay, so one must remember that. So this is very simple. This bombing was ultimately done by Bhagat Singh and Patukeshwar Dutt. Okay, and they subsequently quoted arrest. Which of the following statements regarding B.R. Ambedkar are correct? His work, Annihilation of Caste, denounces caste system but not Varna system. So we are talking about Ambedkar here. This was just a statement created to mislead you guys. he condemned every single aspect of Varna and caste. Okay, he called it graded inequality basically. Okay, that is differences between caste and Varna. So this is wrong. He denounced both caste as well as Varna system. He rejected Aryan invasion theory, which he did. See, he said that he continued to say that basically the Aryans have migrated to India and that Brahminism was something that had emerged or sprouted from our community itself. Okay, that is something that he has said. He said that Aryans never invaded India. There was not a different community here, but rather it was this system developed out, germinated from the Indian culture. Okay, so that is right. He rejected Aryan nation theory, right? Two only. You must also remember that Ambedkar even supported the two-nation theory and the formation of Pakistan in his book Partition or Pakistan. He has supported the two. He has extended his support to the two-nation theory. This is something that you must remember. Okay. Now, consider the following pairs. Free India Society, of course. Savarkar, before he was imprisoned. This was something that he established in London. Which other organization was established by Savarkar? Mitra Mela and Abhinav Bharat. Please do remember about this. Mitra Mela, Abhinav Bharat. Veer Savarkar, Abhinav Bharat. Okay. Okay. Naujawan Bharat Sabha, of course, established by none other than the great Bhagat Singh. Anushlan Samiti, Aurobindo Ghosh, no. Anushlan Samiti was established by two other people, Pramota Mitra or Pramotanath Mitra. Pramotanath Mitra, Pramotanath Mitra, and Satish Chandra Basu. I'll just enunciate it. Satish Chandra Basu. Elicit it. S-A-T-I-S-H. Satish Chandra Basu. That will be simpler actually. Satish Chandra Basu. Okay. So I hope you've understood. You could consider Aurobindo as one of the founders of the Yugantar in one way, but that too is controversial. Garindra Kumar Ghosh, his brother, was one of the founders of the Yugantar Society, okay, which was a breakaway from the Anushlan group. So the answer there is 1 and 2, A. So we have covered aspects that is more or less overlooked by the UPSC. So you needn't worry about it. But nonetheless, we have picked and chose questions in such a way that it is informative as well as challenging for the candidate. Okay. Now, consider the following statements. All India Trade Union Congress was formed as a response to Trade Union Act. Never. All India Trade Union Congress was formed in 1920. It was the formation of the All India Trade Union Congress under the aegis of who formed it? N.M. Joshi. N.M. Joshi. He was the one. Narayan Malhar Joshi founded the All India Trade Union Congress. Okay, so it was founded in 1920. That is, see, the formation of the All India Trade Union Congress is what mobilized the labor to participate in the non-cooperation movement in 1920. Okay, so remember that. This is wrong. Now, Lala Lajpat Rai being its first president. Lala Lajpat Rai was the first president. Already is right. Okay, so 2 only is the answer. B, box. In the context of European penetration to India, which of the following is correct? The early European mercantile trading corporations followed the principle of open and free trade, which they didn't. See, the Europeans very unfairly, through their military power and corrupting local administration, acquired control over trade. They monopolized control. It is very unfair. See, Asia had a system of open trade prior to the arrival of the British. Whereas when the Europeans came to India, they, through their naval supremacy and through their warships, drove away competitors rather than competing with them fairly. That was the problem with European trade. Okay. Under Jahangir, the British secular farmers were establishing trade system. Of course, they did. Thomas Roe, remember, that is how the factory of Surat came about. Thomas Roe received a farmer. Okay. Establishment of the French East India Company intensified European trade rivalry in Deccan. Yes, that is what triggered the Carnatic Wars. Okay, remember that. The answer there is 2 and 3. This is what triggered the Carnatic Wars. 2 and 3. Okay. Now, Consider the following pairs. S.R. Ranganathan, Self-Respect Movement, M.G. Ranade, Devendranath Tagore. Okay, so this is an interesting question. S.R. Ranganathan, Self-Respect Movement. Whose name do you attach or do you attach with the self-respect movement? It's E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, basically, Periyar. But the actual founder of the self-respect movement was somebody known as S.R. Ranganathan. Okay. Periyar is also described to be the founder of the self-respect movement. So is S.R. Ranganathan. Okay, both of them are described as founders because the self-respect movement gained traction only after Periyar joined it. Okay, that is why he is also considered the founder. But S.R. Ranganathan, remember that name too. M.G. Ranade, yes, Pune Sarvajana Sabha is right. What about Devendranath Tagore? Did he find Brahmo Samaj of India? No. This was a breakaway faction founded by Keshav Chandra Sen. If you remember, there was a schism within the Keshav Chandra Sen. There was a schism within the Brahmo Samaj. Somewhere near 1878, there was a schism within the Brahmo Samaj that led to its split, or somewhere near 1867, 67 actually. There was a schism within the Brahmo Samaj which led to its split. Two factions were formed, one led by Adi Devendranath Tagore, the other led by Keshav Chandra Sen. The Adi Brahmo Samaj by Devendranath Tagore, Brahmo Samaj of India by Keshav Chandra Sen. All these details are there in the spectrum. Okay, so don't worry about it. But these are quite tough questions. So UPSC has gotten into, so that's why I said these are the most difficult out of our sections. So it's not surprising for you guys to find this section really tough. Okay, the answer there is 1 and 2. So thank you all so much for being there in the Modern India discussions. It's been fun to have lectured you guys. All the best for your preparation. Okay, please don't get complacent that you've got additional time in months, UPSC, and time waits for none. If you've heard about it. Okay, so it waits for none. So please remember that. Okay, thank you very much. You are free to post your doubts now in the chat box. Okay. India's struggle for independence is a non-goer. Don't go there. Don't read that book. That will not you will not achieve objective by reading that particular book. You stick to Spectrum, which is a compilation of India's struggle for independence. Okay. This is a compilation of India's struggle for independence. Okay. And the NCRTs, I would advise, and the new NCRTs. Okay. Question number 16. Aurobindo associated Anishlan Samiti. Yes, he was associated with Anishlan Samiti at some point. Okay. But not its founder. Okay, but not its founder. He was associated with the Anishlan Samiti, but not its founder. 16. Question number 16. Pledge movement. So question number 16, the answer is Indian National Social Conference. See, I had mentioned the right option. I may have ticked the wrong option. Indian National Social Conference is the answer. I had enunciated the right option, but then I think I ticked the wrong option there. Indian National Social Conference. There's a slight correction there. Pledge movement. INSC. Okay. So now what else? See, I have found that discrepancy there. Karthika has asked a question that the question does not mention about the founder. You're right there. UPSC wouldn't ask such a question. There has been a small problem with regards to question framing. I get your concern, but anyways, Aurobindo was only related to the organization after it split as the Calcutta Anishlan Samiti. But yes, I do get the founder. The question with regards to that particular question relates to the founder organization aspect and not associated with it. Okay, that is how it is given there. Okay, so now answer of question number 16 is wrong in the quiz bot. What is the answer in question number 16? Pledge movement, the answer there is no, the answer is correct actually. See, I ticked the wrong option. I already told you guys, the right option is 16B. Okay, Indian National Social Conference. I think I had espoused the right answer, but picked the wrong option. I'm sorry there. The answer is B. Okay, I told you that this is the answer, but I ticked the wrong option. I guess that was very careless of me. Okay, and I ticked the option that went wrong. Okay. Now, question number 16, option A. No, question number 16 is option B. What is the answer of the quiz bot? It's 16B, I guess. Okay, question number 2, please. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2, which of the following, with reference to the Mahalwari system, which of the following statements is correct? See, your assumption with land revenue systems are that the one who finally settles the amount is the owner of the revenue area or owner of the land. Now, with regards to the permanent settlement system, the owner of the land is the owners or the owner of the revenue estate is considered to be the zamindar, revenue estate there. With regards to Rayotwari system, the ownership of that particular land, if he pays his taxes, is the peasant. Now, with regards to Mahalwari system, see, the assessment is done at the level of the peasant. It is the responsibility of the village to pay the taxes. They don't have ownership over land. Okay, do you get me? That was because it was more convenient to collect taxes from the Mahal rather than the tax revenue collectors going out individually to do it. Because the Mahals were very strong in certain areas of the country, including Uttar Pradesh and Punjab. That is why Mahalwari system was extended to that particular part. See, what happened was that this led to a reignition and reassertion of caste, because now the Mahals became extremely powerful since they were now officially recognized as revenue intermediaries. But nonetheless, they didn't have any sort of ownership over the land which they collected the revenue from. Okay, but they had extensive powers to collect revenue. Adi Brahma Samaj, Devendranath Tagore. Okay. So, okay. Now, are there any other doubts? Question number 16, S.R. Ranganathan. You don't need to know that S.R. Ranganathan was a Tamil politician. He was somebody who was involved in the national movement initially, but later on became part of the, he was also involved in the Justice Party sometime. Later on broke away from it and decided to constitute a self-respect movement when Periyar joined it later on. See, Periyar transformed that movement. That is it. Okay. Question number 2, 21 second statement. Let's look at the second statement, question number 21. Okay, rejected Aryan invasion theory. He did reject Aryan invasion theory, surprisingly. It's a very surprising fact. See, Ambedkar's sense of history was quite different from what you perceive today. Ambedkar was very inaccurate in his description of the Aryan invasion theory, which he felt was not true. What Ambedkar felt was that the caste system and the Varna system was inherently something that emerged out of the Indian fabric. That assertion out of the Indian fabric and ethos, rather than any Aryan culture coming to here. Okay, so he felt that our invasion theory was wrong, but rather everything was established through a Brahmanical hierarchical system, which was inherently Hindu. Okay, very much Hindu. And Hindu life and religion was something that sprouted out of this very holy land. Okay, so that is something that he asserted. That seemed to have gone wrong. But this is Ambedkar's view about the entire issue. Okay. Okay, 16 answer A. In the quiz board, the answer is A. I'll just check up. I'll just check it there. In the PDF, the answer is B actually. So we'll do the necessary corrections there. Okay. I'm sorry there. Peasants were owners, of course. See, the assumption is that if you pay your taxes on time, you are the owner of the land. If you are allocated a patta is granting you the ownership of the land for a particular time. Okay, so you're issued a patta only if you pay your taxes on time. Once you basically you don't pay it, or you renege on your payment, or you are not able to pay it on time, then what happens? Then basically the British decides to confiscate your land. So it was, you could safely say it was an actual ownership, but whatever, they were granted ownership. Okay, don't get into such nuances. So basically the land could be confiscated if they wouldn't pay the taxes. If they pay taxes, they are assured ownership of the land. This is not the case of the Mahal. The Mahal was just a revenue collecting intermediary. Okay, so yes, in the Mahalwari system, the actual owners of the land are peasants. There is no doubt about it. It was the actual owner of the land is the one who pays the taxes. That is the peasant. Okay, the Rayatwari system, the actual owner of the land is the peasant. Okay, but the difference was that in the Mahalwari system, the peasants lacked protection. See, in the Rayatwari system, each peasant who paid his tax was identified as the owner. In the Mahalwari system, the Mahal was granted the special powers, basically. Okay, it was not that the Mahal owned the land, but the Mahal was granted special powers to collect revenue and all that. So ultimately, what happened was that those farmers who were really marginal and did not have any substantial power within the Mahal lose out. They could lose out because the Mahal started imposing their will. Mahal would comprise of the most powerful intermediaries of landed classes of that time. Okay, so that is why the Mahal grew really strong, and certain castes and communities started dominating the Mahals. Okay, and the others couldn't do anything about it. So that's the situation that came about. Question 11, first statement. Question 12, third statement. Question 21 is, explain how interest paid on public debt raised abroad. See, when you pay an interest on public debt, see, interest payment is given, is a guaranteed payment that is given to investors outside India for their investments in the Indian Railways. Okay, so imagine that I am an British investor. So though I may not look like one, imagine that I am a British investor. Okay, and I decide to pump in amount of maybe 12,000 pounds into the railway, and I'm given an interest rate in return. See, there I'm investing it. Ultimately, my investment amount has to be returned because the government is actually taking a loan. Okay, the government isn't actually taking, isn't actually giving them anything about it. See, the government is actually taking a loan. They're taking, the investments are considered to be a loan. Now you have to give an interest rate in return. Why do you need to go through such a complex loop when you could have somehow raised capital from India? That was to guarantee the British investors' interest payments. Now this interest payments was an additional burden on the British government, and they assured these investors the return from the Indian fiscal, which is home charge certainly. Okay. Question number 11, first statement, and question number 12, third statement. Okay. We'll have a look at it. Third statement. The construction of railways does not negate the drain theory. It is a part and essence of the drain theory. See, that is why there was a lot of financial drain that was happening from India during the time of railway constructions, because the British government had to guarantee interest payments to the British investors, thereby losing a lot of finance. Okay, thereby losing a lot of money, which is very unfair. See, what is the process of construction of railways today? It is the government which invests and constructs. There is no interest payment out there. Now here what happened was that private investors, that to those stationed outside the country, were encouraged to invest in the sector of the railways. whereas Indian capital was not given access at all to such areas. Now we had to give excessive, exorbitant payments to such people, okay, which ultimately went to their pockets. Indians now stand to benefit ultimately. The only benefit we had was the expansion of the railways, the very quick and rapid expansion of the railways. That was there, but ultimately it was something that burned the pockets of every Indian. Railway construction. Okay. Question number 11. Suits and Dikkus. See, Dikkus are outsiders. Those who are non-tribes. The tribes don't generally welcome non-tribes because they disrupt their communitarian system of life. The tribes generally live a communitarian system of life where their community is extremely important. They don't have individual ownership, but rather adhere to community and collective ownership. Okay, but when private ownership, when outsiders come in, they have got a different setup altogether. Most of us encourage private ownership. So this disrupts their system and lifestyle altogether. Okay, so they generally had a disinclination or hatred towards outsiders, which they, because most of them deprived these tribes of their land and their livelihood. So they were often very derogatorily termed as Dikkus. Okay, that is outsiders, against whom they had an intrinsic hatred. Okay, so if I've cleared that part too. Any other doubts? No, these outsiders never fought against the British. Okay, I'm sorry. Margaret Noble. Margaret Noble was actually Sister Nivedita. Okay, Gandhi had Mirabai. I'm sorry that you're right. I don't remember. It's the three English women: Mira Alfasa, Margaret Noble, and somebody else, Elizabeth something. Okay, I think I was in the impression that was Gandhi's. Okay, so whatever. Margaret Noble, I think, is Sister Nivedita. Okay, so that's wrong. Anyways, Margaret Noble was never the president of the National Congress. These outsiders never fought against the British. Of course, they didn't. They sometimes did fight against the British, but they were considered to be generally antagonistic to tribal interests. So the tribes wanted to drive them out. The tribes still find Dikkus, or tribes still do not welcome Dikkus into their lands. They are not welcome. That is why we decided to pass the Forest Rights Act in 2006 to ensure collective ownership. Okay, so Madeline Slade was Mirabai, you're right there. Margaret Noble was Sister Nivedita. Okay, I stand to correct up there. So we'll stop our session here. We'll stop our session here. Oh, I'll be posting my notes very soon in your Telegram group. So don't worry about it. We are basically preparing it. Thank you very much, all of you, and all the best for your preparation.